evening, everyone. Thank you. We will start. I would like to introduce and have come down or stand Bella Height, 5th grader, to lead us in the pledge to the flag. You're going to from there. Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you could, I'm sorry, please stand for one moment. Just wanted to recognize a moment of silence for a couple of people that passed away the last couple of weeks. One was a former town employee in the cafeteria for at least 20 years and town resident, Mary Sypak. And another one, resident of town and big supporter of the Board of Ed, Fran Klein. Thank you. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold. Before we start, I just want to make one little change on the agenda, if that's all right, and a motion. We have our recognition and then a presentation following that. So what I'd like to do is move number 4, audience and citizens, down to after the presentation, so 7.2. And what I like to do is split that so that after the presentation, board can ask questions and comments and then get public comments on that. And then we could take a quick little break if we need to, and then come back and follow up with other public comments and continue the agenda. So, do I have a motion to Lois to move our audience and citizens? Joanne, second. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so real quick liaisons and a board. I know we have the town manager, which I'll introduce in a moment, and Kevin Wright, council member. I saw him. Where'd he go?
There
he is.
In the back.
Since you're here as a council member, just any liaison report, communications.
I'm sorry.
Any
Do you have anything to
liaison
say?
as a town
I'd like
council.
to take a moment to say something if I could.
Of course.
I first of all would like to wish obviously everyone here a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. It's really a pleasure to be here tonight, and I'm looking forward to the presentation. It certainly warms the cockles of my heart, having been blessed and to be a part of this wonderful school district for over 41 years. It's very special that tonight you're going to have this presentation. It is an extremely meaningful opportunity for all of us, and my compliments to the Board of Ed, obviously the superintendent of schools, the administration, and the staff. This isn't an easy task. It's a task that needs to be completed, and that's just one reason why I'm proud to say I live in East Hampton, and I love everything you do. Very best of all.
Thank you. No one from the union. And any updates? We'll start with Director of Curriculum.
Thank you. Just sort of following up on the presentation we had 2 weeks ago around curriculum. We are working on completing the curriculum audit across the district and working with our department heads and K-12 coordinators to ensure that we're building that centralized structure where we can communicate our curriculum and make sure it's transparent and accessible to community members. So we've just taken the early first steps in that process. Additionally, we look to continue the conversation we started 2 weeks ago. I had the opportunity to meet with both Chris and Joanne and look at a schedule of presentations around curriculum, and we'll kick that off at our second meeting in January by focusing on our mathematics instruction at Memorial School. So we look forward to sharing that with you and continuing that conversation each month moving forward. Also, our Professional Learning and Evaluation Committee, which is a committee that I work with along with administrators and teachers, is just reviewing the platform that we use to manage professional learning for our teachers in the district. Just speaking with a few different vendors to see that we have the best system to support the teachers, but also hopefully the most cost effective for the board. So we'll continue to share that progress with you as that committee moves forward.
Turn it over to the principals. Anyone?
Just go first.
I never, we have our student representatives here, but Frank has arrived, so it's been very nice around Franklin Common Fest and enjoying working with him as much as we can get a minute here or there. So welcome, Frank. And also we had a very successful blood drive this week. Student Council, so it was last Friday, sponsored the blood drive. And what was noteworthy of that, besides the fact that we surpassed our goal for the blood donations, was that the person who ran it let us know, well, it was Linda Chambers, who was in charge of it, how impressed she was with our student body, and how respectful they were, and how responsible they were, and each and every one of them, she just, I mean, it was a big, long period, it was a big, long relay to us. So, once again, we're very proud of our students, and they really represent us as bell ringers and obviously public, so we should be very proud of our students.
I'd just like to say, so likewise, thank you, and working with Nancy has been a complete pleasure. She has my absolute gratitude. I'd also like to highlight the ABC Holiday Gift Collection, which culminated this Tuesday with the, last Tuesday, excuse me, with the wrapping of gifts in the cafeteria, and just to see the number of students that were involved in that was just truly a testament to the types of students that are here.
And welcome.
Yes.
Thank you.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So the middle schools want to take a minute to recognize Ken Landry for putting together the No Shave November. We did raise some funds for awareness for that. It was around $200–300. So unfortunately, the day after I shaved, nobody even said anything. It made me realize how awful my beard was.
Well, no one wanted to say
No,
anything.
oh, you should have kept it, or no?
Or like, oh, did you shave it?
Yeah.
The other thing we're doing now probably for this month, we're going to start collecting items. We recognize that we have so many wonderful students doing so many wonderful things that a lot of times we're not even aware of because they're done outside of the school, they're not done with our traditional sports or things like that. So I've offered parents and students for the next month or two to bring in trophies, bring in accolades of any kind they want to be able to share with the rest of the school. We're going to dust out our trophy case and be able to share those things with our whole student body.
Nice.
Last Wednesday night, we had a standing room only band and chorus concert here, so thank you, East Hampton High School, for hosting. Absolutely outstanding performance, and the compliments are still coming in daily in terms of how impressed they were with the young learners that we had and the skill set that they had in band and chorus. Also, the Friday before that, we had our first sharing of Genius Hour projects. I'll speak to those during the presentation, but was a very interesting presentation where students took the reins on their own learning. It was project-based learning where they were able to investigate some sort of spark that interested them, where they investigated questions, and out of it, just some of the things were creation of video games, comparison between Linux and Windows operating system. There was diesel versus regular fuel, so combustion investigation. So a lot of interesting things came out of it and really inspired some of our students to dig deeper and own their learning. So it's nice to see.
Cool.
At Memorial, the focus this month has really been kindness and caring and making it common, and while that's true of the whole year and the theme of our district, a teacher had shared from Pinterest a kindness calendar that they thought that people might be interested in, and another staff member said, let's make it our own, and so she spent time to create an entire month of things that anyone in the building could do out of kindness and caring, and it went out to everybody, and it got put on everyone's calendar, and so really all over Memorial, every day people are following through with that, whether there are things someone make a card for someone. There are some big things that Memorial School is doing to help community members far and wide. Last time I shared that the gift program, the getting intergenerational friends together. Some center school and third graders went to the senior center to play games. This time some seniors came in to do very structured crafts with our preschool class. And it was amazing to see them all set up in the cafeteria, making crafts, painting, having snacks together. PJ Day for the kids, everyone was wearing pajamas, including Mr. G, his for Grinch. And Memorial raised just over $1,100 for CCMC. UNICEF donations were also fairly large. The toy drive, so our kindergarten teachers, as part of the kindness calendar, organized a gently used toy and book drive for hurricane relief. And Lisa Porcelina, Meg, and I delivered 3 carloads to the center last Friday night. They were overwhelmed by East Hampton's generosity. And I'm going to give a shout out when I said where we were from and who we were. Lori Gonzalez greeted us. And so someone near and dear to our work in the community was, they were overwhelmed by the generosity. And then finally, just how thrilled Memorial was to welcome the Chinese delegation and have all of the third graders outside as they entered, and then to have them tour our classrooms.
Good. Any questions for the schools? All right. Thank you. All right, moving on. Motion to approve the consent agenda. Erica, second.
Second.
Joanne, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Recognition, fun part.
Well, we have some celebrities in the house tonight that we are very proud to introduce you to. But first, let me have our VFW members come forward. Please come right down here because we're going to want you in the picture with all of our students. Ann came to me in the early fall, or maybe it was last June, came to me and said, how can we get our students involved in Wreaths Across America, a project that's very important to this community and to our veterans in particular, making sure that all the local graves have a wreath on them, and then fundraising to make sure that every grave in Arlington Cemetery is adorned by a wreath. And I think East Hampton does very good work in both of these efforts, thanks to our VFW. We were very happy to help them. Our Interact students were involved. But we decided it was time to get the elementary students involved. So in grades K through 3, we had a poster contest. In grades 4 and 5, we had an essay contest. And we have the winners here tonight. So I'm very excited to introduce you to the following students, and we have a small token of our appreciation for them. So let's have them come down one at a time. First of all, our kindergarten poster winner is Taylor Karavetsis. Taylor, come right down. Parents, so we can wave to them and thank them for coming. Thank you very much for coming. Our first grade poster winner, Matthew Balamucki. Matthew, come on down. Matthew, I'll take your hand as well. Excellent job. Point to your parents so we can wave to them and thank them for coming. Thank you very much. In second grade, we have Juliana Ware. Is Juliana here tonight? Juliana, come down! Point to your parents so we can give them a wave. Thank you very much for coming. And our third grade winner, Nora Height. Get right in line, perfect. Now I think if I've done this correctly, I have pictures of the winning posters K, 1, 2, and 3. Do they look like they're right in the right order?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I need. You passed. One yes. This was an important project because, as Ann explained to us, we gave them not only the winning posters, which were hung up as part of Saturday's events, but we gave them all the posters done, and there were over 600 posters done for grades K, 1, 2, and 3. And I believe Ann sent several of them to Rocky Hill, to the Veterans Home, so they could enjoy them as well. So thank you to all of our students who were involved, and certainly the VFW for hosting this. Before we do our grades 4 and 5 winners, let's take some nice pictures here. And we just have a small token of our appreciation. Taylor, that's for you. And Matthew, that's for you. Juliana, that's for you. And Nora, that's for you. I don't know, Ann, if you want to say anything.
It was a very wonderful ceremony, and the posters are beautiful.
we were just so thrilled to be able to take them to Rocky Hill. We were trying to have a poster in each veteran's room so that they could enjoy him. We really appreciate it. They did a great job.
We're going to take some pictures. Parents, come right down. You don't need to take from the back tier. You can come as close as you like to take some pictures. Everybody look over this way first at the camera. Big smiles.
Okay, one more. You guys are
And now you can look in any direction that you see a camera. If you see a camera or a phone, just look in that direction for a moment.
Keep sliding, Jeff.
We also have these posters up at the VFW.
Oh,
We had them during the ceremony.
Keep smiling, kids.
Awesome job. You can go back now. I put the clicker down so we're now right there. Oh, thank you very much. I thought we were going to be on this slide for this one. Okay. And in grade 4, our essay winners, one student from each grade, Chelsea Ryan from grade 4. Chelsea, come on down. Congratulations to you. And we have Gabriella Weisner from grade 5. So we can give them a big wave on all the board members. There we are. Excellent. And Gabriella, your parents, right in the back. Thank you very much for coming. And thank you for coming too. So as part of this, we asked each of these students if they would read their essay. So just so we can get you on the camera, come right in front of our table here. There we go. Yep, face right there. See the camera in the back?
What was the question?
So the title, you're going to read the title. Did you give this a title?
It's right here.
So we'll let you read the title and then you can read the essay. So there was a theme with each
Yep.
of
I figured it was related,
the contest.
The theme is I am an American, yes I am.
Okay.
Everybody get that? I am an American, yes I am.
I'm proud to be an American. I am proud to be me. I am happy to be born as an American. Freedom and liberty for everyone. The United States of America is the first country to offer freedom, liberty, and rights to all of its citizens. We can thank and be proud of our founding fathers like George Washington, Ben Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson. But we can also be proud of all the Americans who established these rights in the early days. 100 years later, America is still about freedom, not only for ourselves, but for the whole world. The Statue of Liberty welcomed people from all over the world for freedom. Then we get to the 20th century. Our soldiers and sailors gave their lives to defend freedom in World War I and II. Now, in the modern times, we are still uniting the world and fighting for liberty and freedom.
And Gabriella, you are next.
I'm proud to be an American because I know the importance of our country because my dad is in the military. One reason is because the military serves for our country. They're brave, courageous, strong, and smart. I want to be just like my dad when I grow up. Another reason why I'm proud to be an American is because it represents freedom and hope. One reason is because everyone has a hope, wish, or dream. America is where you can accomplish anything as long as you keep hoping. My last reason why I'm proud to be an American is because there are opportunities. One reason is because a lot of people come to America for an opportunity or another chance. This is why I'm proud to be an American.
And both of our students read the essays at Saturday's ceremony at the VFW. So you guys are like expert essay readers now. Gabriella, that's for you. Congratulations. And
Chelsea does?
That's for you.
I-
And now we'll take some pictures. Oh, go right
I
ahead.
asked the superintendent if I could have a copy. I'd like to send it up to the Veterans Home in Rocky Hill so they can have someone read them to them, and I think they'll enjoy it.
Great.
Thank you. Oh, great.
So you'll get that before you leave tonight.
Good.
All right, parents, don't be shy.
Okay, so right here, right now. Okay, one more. Thank you.
Great.
And thank you, as always, to the VFW for all their support and the work that they do. Okay, so now we're moving on. Profile of the graduate. Now, before they start and take the show over here, I just want to throw in a couple comments. Last week, I met with the superintendent, and he was talking to me about this and showed me the picture that we have some copies we'll get out to everyone. And it was funny to see his excitement and the proudness. It wasn't proud of what he had done. It was proud of what the team that are going to present this had done. So I realized that this is a big deal for East Hampton. So I left the office and I told him, I said, well, I think I'm going to invite a few people to come. I think they need to see. This is a big deal. So with that, there's a few that couldn't make it. I just want to announce those that were invited. State Representative Melissa Gebron, State Senator Art Menieres. He couldn't be here. He's on his honeymoon, so we'll give him that. Lieutenant Governor Nancy Wyman was invited, but she had a prior commitment. And just got an email today from the State Board of Education Chairman, Alan Taylor, has pneumonia. So he couldn't be here. But, I'll just wait 1 second. Bye,
Yes.
guys. But with that, we do have some other guests that are here, and I want to introduce. First off, we have the CAVE Executive Director, Rob Rader. Welcome. Yeah, I'm going to make sure I get everyone here. Trying to think who else. Town Manager, Mike Maniscalco. And Council Member Kevin Reich. We have a former Board of Ed Chair, Mr. Mark Laraya, sitting up there. And with him, some former board members, Carol Lane, Bill Marshall, Scott Minnick, and down here hiding, Tanya Sohn. So, with that, I will turn it over, and I can't wait.
So you don't have to worry about this slide. The document on the left is our vision for the district, East Hampton 2025. The document on the right is our district goals, and I'll get to those in a minute. We're very excited tonight to present what we're calling the profile of the graduate. And I want to begin with two thoughts. The first thought is Google now has as its philosophy that potential candidates to be hired who need to be managed are no longer employable. They are looking for people that come in with a certain set of skills. They don't expect young trainees to come in and need to be managed. They've said people who need to be managed are unemployable. So it makes you think about the skills that they are looking for in their young candidates coming in. The second is a quote on the back of your profile by Tony Wagner in his book, The Achievement Gap. And he talks about the rigor that matters most for the 21st century is demonstrated mastery of the core competencies for work, citizenship, and lifelong learning. Studying academic content is the means for developing competencies instead of being the goal, as it has been traditionally. In today's world, it's no longer how much you know that matters, it's what you can do with what you know. So that focus on what can you do with the content that you've mastered. What skills are we looking for? Calls to mind the fact that we are looking at educating students who are going to be alive and working in the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s. That's the 2030s, 40s, and 50s. And if you look at the developments that have just happened with technology in the last 20 years, you can only imagine what their future holds. In every Sunday editorial, you read about artificial intelligence and its effect on the workplace, and how the workplace is just going to be dramatically different. Our goal then has to be to identify those skills that our students need. We know the content they need. They're still going to learn to read. They're still going to learn to write. We want them to learn a foreign language. We want them to be masters of certain science skills and social studies skills. But there's skills beyond that. There's skills that they have to have in order to be competitive. And that document on the left, we started looking at that as, okay, here's our vision for the future. And we talked a lot about what the schools were going to do on those bullets. But we didn't talk a lot about yet what we want our students to do as a result of those. So our second goal that we're really focused on this year, in order to promote what we call a vision of excellence, was to really develop a vision of the graduate that we are calling the profile of the graduate. We're at an advantage because when we did East Hampton 2025, we did a very extensive survey of students and parents and teachers and community members. So we didn't really even need to go back and resurvey, because though as part of this process, we had the words that kept cropping up over and over. And I'm happy to say that those words now appear in our profile of the graduate. But what I'm more proud to say is we didn't just go on the internet and say, hey, Fairfax, Virginia has a great profile of the graduate. Let's take theirs and just make it our own. I feel like the words we've chosen come right from our school district, especially as a result of the high school kind of going through this process at the same time as we were developing East Hampton 2025. They were looking at those skills that they want students to be able to master. But we also felt kids aren't born in the 9th grade. We shouldn't be waiting to the 9th grade to develop these skills in our students. But we want to start assessing these skills in our students beginning in pre-K. The challenge was, what does that look like in pre-K? What we do know, and as we launch this, our work really begins now. Because my expectation is that they will drive assessments in the classroom that are inspirational, experiences that are memorable, and experiences that are powerful. So I think you have a copy of what we're calling our profile of the graduate. Did anybody not get one? Everybody has one. Great. I'm going to let Mary take it right over and she'll walk you through the chart.
So if you take a look at this, we were very excited to participate in a session that has been brought to Connecticut by the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents, or CAPS. The administrators as a team are participating in a series of learning opportunities known together as systemic transformation. We're one of 20 school districts attending. But we've really, I think, gotten out of the gate pretty strong. You'll see at the end of the presentation the feedback we've been getting about the work that our team has been doing. And as Paul points out, through NEASC or through East Hampton 2025, we really had a strong foundation from which to work. And we wanted to honor that each of the buildings in East Hampton has always had a strong culture and a close and clear tie to the learner in that building. But what we are excited about is focusing on how those schools work together in a progression. As Paul points out, our students don't enter our system in 9th grade. We need to be considering from the first days of school in East Hampton how we are fostering skills and qualities that we know will serve them in the long term. So you can see on the chart behind me and in front of you that our high school profile of the graduate terms really speak to the work that the high school went through in the NEASC process in identifying what are the core competencies that we want to see our high school seniors graduate with. And we focused on each school there that leads to the high school. What is the progression of learning that's authentic to each stage of the child and speaks to the school within which that child will develop those skills. Tonight you'll hear from each of the building principals, and they'll lead you through the 5 terms that they're focused on in their building. Whether it's Memorial or Center or the middle school, how are they contributing to the natural developmental progression of our students, but also in fostering in a purposeful manner the skills that we think our students need to be equipped as they head out into the world. And so one of the things that we have been very thoughtful about in this process is considering that relationship, the relationship to the child and their moment in time. But this work is not yet complete. We're really, in many ways, in the beginning stages. So you'll hear from each principal about where they are right now, how these terms come to life in each building, but we have future work to do in terms of how we measure this in each of our classes across buildings, and I'll speak a little bit to that process after we hear from each building. Okay? So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gonzalez, who will speak for Memorial School.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me tonight. As Mary and Paul both said, very exciting opportunity. Pleased to be a part of such a great team working on this kind of groundbreaking work. Not the ideal presentation style for me. I'd love to be able to just talk with all of you tonight. Because this work has kind of unfolded so quickly, I took the time to write out a description for each of the 5 terms. I'm going to read directly from this paper so that I don't miss anything, because I feel that the effort that we've put in as a team really will come to light when you hear the descriptions that we have here tonight. So at Memorial, we're blessed to have the opportunity to work with our youngest learners in the district. We have the responsibility of instilling habits of mind that will ultimately produce knowledgeable, ethical, self-directed problem solvers and innovators. The terms that we selected at Memorial, we really feel are ones that students can understand, that we value, and that we teach to each and every day. And we start with caring. As Mrs. Gadori shared when we were doing our update, we are working hard to make kindness and caring common in our school. We've done this by developing a culture that fosters acceptance and builds positive relationships. We celebrate the smallest things, from students smiling and greeting adults or their peers with a smile, to holding doors for each other, to bigger collaborative efforts like our toy drive, raising money for UNICEF, the relief efforts for communities that have been affected by natural disasters. All of our classrooms hold morning meetings to build community. The second step curriculum will be implemented and taught to all learners to further understand what caring looks like. And laying the foundation for this trait will be important so that our growing learners may then be able to understand how their actions impact others. Imagination. If you've had a chance to talk with an elementary learner, you know they have some great imaginations. We work to capitalize on this and allow our students to explore ways to drive their own learning. In the workshop model, our students are given voice and choice in the activities and ways to demonstrate their learning. These personalized learning models engage students in topics of interest and give them opportunities to share their experiences. Students are encouraged to find innovative solutions to problems across all settings at Memorial. Students and teachers participate in purposeful play. Playing is a social and emotional developmentally appropriate means to gain knowledge, interact with one's environment, and grow peer relations. Our students are given time to create their own playful environment in centers and in learning scenarios. Students are given choice in their play activities. They work with peers to plan, create, design how they will interact with the manipulatives or the environment. Our next term is confidence. The school setting and academic experiences can be very challenging for our kids, and we want it to be that way. We will provide students with rigorous lessons using the gradual release model of instruction and have high expectations for all of our learners. For our learners to be successful, they need to have a belief in their own abilities and exude confidence. They need to be confident to ask questions, confidence to take risks, and to understand that failure is part of the learning process. Nurturing a growth mindset in our students and creating a climate that supports students is essential at the elementary school. This has come to life in Building Goal 2, creating independent learners who have an academic mindset. We have worked to build self-esteem through positive reinforcement. We have a safe and structured environment that promotes risk-taking. Students are involved in setting personal goals for academics and for behavior. Anchor charts and posters that provide directions for students when faced with challenges are displayed in all classrooms. Teachers will continue to share personal experience that required a growth mindset, sharing struggles and failures while modeling experience. Teamwork. This is a novel idea for our 3-year-olds. Being a positive contributing member of a team takes practice. We offer students many opportunities in a variety of settings to develop this trait to practice taking care of others. We share the belief that together everyone achieves more. At Memorial, we share, we work together, we celebrate our success, listen to others, and cooperate to achieve common goals. Each day, students work with partners or in groups to complete academic tasks. We even have a unit of study called Superpower Equals Partner Power. Students also work as a team in many social situations. Students develop play plans, enjoy games at recess, and solve problems with peers. Wonder. In conclusion, by creating environments that are caring, imaginative, confident, collaborative, our students are free to wonder. Our young learners enter Memorial with so many questions, and we are committed to adding to their curiosity. Students in elementary school experience the joy of unlocking the magic of reading, writing, investigating, and problem solving. As our curriculum rolls out, we want our kids to always wonder why. Teachers will use questioning strategies to push our learners to think deeply. Students will be given time to have conversations with each other and share their wonders and learn from each other. An exciting area where we hope to see our students' wonder on full display is science. Science is at the heart of America's ability to create and continue to innovate, lead, and have jobs in the future. Here is part of the engineering domain within the Next Generation Science Standards. It says that students will ask questions, make observations, gather information about a situation people want to change, and define a simple problem that can be solved through the development of a new or improved object or tool. In effort to give students more time to chase their passions, explore their questions, own the learning process, we have expanded our Genius Hour opportunities and are looking to bring the Invention Convention down to grade 3. Chris?
Center School, Lion Pride. Center School comes at a time where students are growing as individuals and identifying a stronger sense of self. The terms behind me embody the school culture we aim to create. Empathy. The Center School community promotes a learning culture that is safe, positive, and supportive. Reflection is a key component of this work and is driven through time in our classroom dedicated to reflective practice. While sometimes thought of as a supplemental skill, this is built into our core academic curriculum with a unit focused solely on social skills. Identifying and understanding the feeling of characters in both nonfiction and fictional texts, building on second step, students are given strategies to reflect and identify their feelings. Putting practice into action, Center School students have created a strong culture of service learning, identifying needs in the community and working to raise awareness and support for others. Our goal is to develop graduates where acceptance is the norm. With the skill set of understanding how one's actions impact others, it is now the responsibility of the learner to choose actions that promote our district goal of kindness and caring. Creativity. There was a longitudinal study done by NASA in which they tested 1,600 4- and 5-year-olds in divergent thinking. That's a fancy term for creativity. Found that 98% scored in the genius level. Unfortunately, when they retested those students again in high school, that number dropped to 12%. Creativity is such a natural process in our young learners. As educators, we work to channel the imagination of our youngest learners and create an environment where learning promotes various personalized approaches to a single task. Opportunities like the Center School Invention Convention offer a student-led, project-based learning environment where innovation flourishes. Shifting from a mindset of a single process to find a single answer, our practices will shift to an approach of posing a thought-provoking question and allowing students to explore multiple pathways in finding a solution. Adaptability. At Center School, we look for our confident learners to take action and adjust to new situations. While routine and consistency are still in place at Center School, our students are faced with new social and academic challenges on a daily basis. Center School works to build positive self-image along with the idea that your mindset when approaching a difficult task can be just as important as your academic ability to accomplish that task. Individual academic and social goal setting has become a common practice where students take full responsibility of their learning. The definition of success may vary depending on the individual, but the constant is the fact that students will face adversity. By creating a supportive environment that continually asks students to push themselves, students will begin to foster a growth mindset. Challenges will be met with excitement instead of trepidation, and setbacks will be viewed as valuable learning experiences. Community. A successful team recognizes and celebrates differences while working together toward a common goal. The many student and adult communities at Center School contribute to the feeling that together we can achieve more, and we can take the next step of explicitly teaching community building skills by offering opportunities for students to build community outside of their classroom. The Center School Student Council empowers over 50 4th and 5th graders looking to take an active role in their community. Through classroom, partnership, and grade level communities, we celebrate our accomplishments and consistently recognize the good in others. Center School will move toward enlisting students in maintaining this sense of community and provide opportunities for students to learn skills and develop habits that will benefit them through the rest of their lives. Curiosity. Center School aims to place our students in an environment where they are able to have a strong desire to learn and investigate. Through asking thought-provoking questions, our students are primed for investigating complex material. Asking questions of our students can spark this process, but to truly develop curiosity, students must be the ones asking the questions. One student, during a recent Genius Hour fair at Center School, this was very evident. One student was curious how video games were made, so he learned to code and created a game for peers. Another wondered what the difference was between gasoline and diesel fuel, so he investigated the difference in the combustion process. A third asked why don't people use Linux as an operating system, so he created an in-depth comparison between Linux and Windows. The feeling I walked away with was one of engagement and inspiration. At Center School, we want to provide opportunities for students to pursue their passions and become curious enough to dig deeper and move from understanding to ownership. Jay? Thank you.
Good evening. First, I just wanted to recognize Paul Pastor for just whipping up this little logo. I think I was really excited when I first saw it. It just really has a little bit more of a semi-adult feel like most middle school students want to feel. One of the things I think about when I think about education and I think about coming from kindergarten through 5th grade, we have kind of a two-sided scale. And one is your social emotional growth and one is your academic content area growth. And when you get to middle school, you really are a balancing act of both. As most of us probably remember our middle school years, either favorably or not, but they were very confusing times for us socially, emotionally, and that's why we need to really make sure that we foster growth in those areas for our students. So we're looking at really being able to develop the entire student. So these words I feel like are great ways to embrace that. So responsibility, initiative, resilience, perspective, and inquiry all kind of scream out that we're letting go of the back of the bike. Just a little bit, and letting the kids kind of take on their own passions and their own goals. So the first word, responsibility. Responsibility is a critical component to the development of a middle level learner. Students are beginning to grow their independence, and over the course of the 3 years will be guided to cultivate their own organizational practices through times such as X-Block and other flexible scheduling arrangements. So one of the things that we're doing right now, looking to use things like Google Keep with kids so that they can embrace some kind of embrace the technology we offer and be able to utilize that to be able to make their own organizational systems to take responsibility for their academics. Socially, emotionally, we want kids to also take responsibility for their well-being as well as their peers and their colleagues. Initiative. Middle-level learners are poised to begin positive activism, channeling energy to drive their interest. With guidance and direction from staff, students will begin to encourage to pursue their passions and to look for ways to make connections into personalized learning within their classrooms. So another, again, looking for teachers to start to develop more of a facilitation model and really allow students to just go out there and learn and dive into the things that they're interested in. One of the other things we're going to be looking in the future to be able to bring into this would be like an 8th grade mini capstone project, much like the senior capstone project, which is maybe on a smaller scale, but really, again, allowing students to start to pursue their interests. Resilience. As a staff, we will foster self-reflection of our middle level learners to allow them to celebrate their successes, but also take ownership of constructive criticism and guidance through the development of actionable steps for self-improvement. A growth mindset will be developed through the advisory model to help students not just bounce back, but to bounce forward. Thanks, Andy. I guess looking at that more, our student-centered conference is something we've been doing for 2 years now, but really it's not something that we're going to continue to do and not change that model. That model is constantly evolving and tweaking and becoming better every time. So for example, this year, our teachers in the advisory groups that they work with, which is the same group of kids as the student-centered conferences, they're sitting individually with each of those kids and spending anywhere, 2 minutes to 5 minutes to 15 minutes, depending upon how the conversation goes. But to be able to address and learn about that student, what are their interests? How are their classes going? What are some things that maybe they could do better in? And what kind of advice can I provide as your advisor to make things go better? So for example, I did this just as a kind of an experiment. I wanted to see how long that actually takes in order to be able to have that consult with a student. So I went into a couple of homerooms and just started talking with the kid very casually, much as I would expect one of the teachers to do, before they then report back to the parents. So keeping that whole triangle of communication between the parent, the student, and the teacher. And it was really just a really great experience. I got to learn a little bit about some of the kids and how much they love snowmobiling or they love to ride their quads. And it allowed us to have that interpersonal connection that allows us to get a little bit more out of the student. And as well, in the classroom, now if I was their teacher, I could say, hey, I know you really like quads. I see how we can incorporate that in today's lesson. So it's developing that connection with the kids and as well as with the staff and parents. Perspective. Middle level learners are inherently egocentric. It is imperative to provide them with a number of opportunities to learn life lessons through other people's lenses. So through kindness and caring projects, as we've done all year, pretty much one a month, we'd like to continue those both at a local and a global level to make sure kids understand how they impact their community. As well, we would like to start looking at the inception of a unified sports program to allow students to gain even a greater perspective of how other students maybe learn and what other people have for needs and how we can be more respectful of that. Lastly, inquiry. Middle level learners are primed to be challenged with critical thinking questions that will activate their schema to be utilized when grappling with real life issues. With guidance from teachers and students, we'll plan to develop plans of attack on how to solve problems that are relevant to their lives. So for example, the NGSS, the new standards that have come out, there was a little bit of hesitation, a little bit of, how are my kids going to do this? This is really rigorous, this is really going to be difficult. But by having it be something that is so applicable to real life, the students have just blossomed with it, and the teachers are really impressed with how well the kids are able to adjust and adapt and use their information that they have already to be able to meet with success. And much like Mr. Smith pointed out, we're not looking to develop kids that just have this massive amount of content. We want to know how they can best use that content, and providing them these kind of real life examples is a great way to do that and really gets their interest. One of which, the lessons they just did recently was around Lyme disease. And students learned about Lyme disease. They also learned about how ticks function and operate. And one of the tasks was, can you build a park that would be tick-free? So like a tick-free park to make sure that everybody can play safely. Well, you can only imagine how many different directions that brought kids in to be able to gain information and to be able to collect things. It also goes back to Chris's point about creativity. I mean, really, it takes it to the next step, really allowing students to explore. So that would be it for the middle school. Nancy, Frank.
So you're going to we're going to tag team. Well, so now we're going to be ready to be at the high school level. We're going to have our graduates. So all the work that we've been talking about, we're going to take kids from from the Memorial School all the way up until, you want Kristen? Go all the way to the graduating seniors. As you can see, all over the high school, we have all of our core values listed, and we live and breathe by these. And these are obviously, as I think Paul mentioned and Mary mentioned, the product of our NEASC self-evaluation, which we're in the middle of, almost completing. We'll have our visit in March, where the teachers really got together and really decided what they wanted a high school student to, the values they wanted them to have as they graduated. And based on the 21st century skills and expectations, they work very hard at getting these values, and they want, I can't already said this, but this is what we want our graduates to possess as they reach the culmination of their educational experiences here at East Hampton High School. First one is compassion. It goes without saying that our students show compassion constantly. I mentioned the blood drive when we started. I mean, that was just one way that they showed how they can give back to others. But our community service expectations, while they're not a graduation requirement, are so involved here at the high school. There's so many, I mean, 800 activities a year, oh, I don't know. But I mean, there's so many activities at the year. So really the idea of compassion is just really participating in community service and shows our kindness and care. 800 is an exaggeration. But it's so, there are so many though. It's like we were talking, Frank and I were talking, it's like, and it's just so many different organizations that do community service.
So perhaps it's fitting that we're starting with compassion, so I just want to take an opportunity to publicly thank Nancy Breer for being a symbol of strength the last few months for the community here at the high school and the community in general. Again, I do believe it is fitting, and I know both the staff and the students and the community at large have been very appreciative of that, as have I, and you have a tremendous amount of my gratitude for in our transition together, so I just want to say thank you. So the big idea with regard to compassion and the lives of our postgraduates is that they will take these experiences and continue to apply them to the community. And you heard from the principal reports at the beginning of the board meeting. It won't take a lot of convincing to do, because I think between staff, and parents, community members, it's already kind of ingrained. But it doesn't stop there, so it should be underscored and it should be further cultivated. So, which is one of the reasons why it resonates very strongly. We find more so that with this generation more than perhaps previous ones, if they understand the purpose and the value of something, these students will move mountains in order to do it. And certainly with compassion, that is something they very highly value.
Okay, the next one is innovation. At East Hampton High School, we strive to have our students creatively solve problems. So as they go off into the world, they're going to have to, all kinds of problems are going to be put in front of them. They're going to have to really think outside the box for their creativity. This year we are assisted through the use of one-to-one technology, so all students really have the ability to participate, fully engage in their instruction, and students are free to be creative in their activities and to be accountable for their actions. And we have capstone project is a requirement this year for the first time. So that's really a project where kids really get to be creatively solve their problems if they want to. We have Genius Hour and Makerspace as well. That's just some examples of how kids are innovative.
And the big idea with innovation to continue after graduation is that students are going to be moving into an economy that is very much a moving target as a result of innovation. And so regardless of the trajectory of a student, whether it's college, military, or directly into work, whatever it might be, they are going to be at the mercy of what that looked. In fact, many instances, our current students and our graduating students are going to have a career that doesn't quite yet exist. And that is certainly as a byproduct of innovation. We want our students to be sort of at the forefront of that innovation, to continue to contribute in developing those things, those products and those services that don't quite yet exist or that do, and that have a level of finesse and an improvement to them. We also want to very strongly encourage the idea that innovation is not necessarily synonymous with technology. It should not have a technological border. Innovation can apply to a variety of fields with or without a technological gadget.
Okay, perseverance. I think the words that kind of came through all the schools really tell us that kids really need to persevere and really stay with something. As they develop their own skills, they need to possess the qualities of taking a risk, being willing to try something, overcoming obstacles, things that might be in their way, developing a clear focus on what they want to accomplish, and pursue a goal from its beginning to its end. And it obviously needs to be completed. This again is shown through the capstone project. The kids are very creative in what they're coming up with, and you should come in the springtime to watch their projects. Also, working for a common goal could be in a dramatic presentation, could be in extracurricular activities or sports. Those are all ways kids really persevere and really try to come to completion what their activities are.
And in postgraduate life, certainly the big idea here is to understand the importance of struggle and overcoming struggle, regardless of what that is, and that many times failure, regardless of what aspect of our life, we learn so much more from that than we do from the successes and the victories.
Collaboration. You have to be able to get along and work together. I think you're alluding to the fact of, having kids having these kind of skills. If you can't work with other people, I don't know if you're going to get very far with anything. But the ability to work with others is vital to success in life. Our high school wants to provide experiences for students to work together in class, work with other classes, work together also when you have activities and extracurricular activities. The other thing too is role model through our teachers' collaboration. There's a tremendous level of collaboration at this high school, and the way the teachers work together and have common projects, so that the kids see this in action and it's role model for them.
And while here at the high school, we want students actually to observe those connections that occur amongst teachers, because they're doing a great job of that modeling. And with an eye towards graduation, we want our students to recognize the importance of making connections of all the disciplinaries they've had exposure to here at the high school. And also, as Nancy mentioned, to be positive and contributing members of the team. This is by far one of the most highly sought out after quality from employers.
And being active learners. Obviously, we want students to be involved with their learning at all levels and be lifelong learners and really take what they know and always be inquisitive and want to learn more.
We want our students to be able to understand how to optimize their own engagement and to increase their own learning, and to be very responsible with that. And we want them to understand that finding information is pretty much an archaic skill, and but it is very important to scrutinize what information they found or where they've gotten it from, and as well as what is done with the information. And I would just echo that quote that Mr. Smith said toward the beginning of this presentation from Tony Wagner: "It's what you can do with what you know," and that is highly sought after by employers as well.
So as you can see from all the different schools, the kids have come through and they'll have all these qualities we want them to have as they graduate. It's the profile of the graduate.
Wow.
So this is really, as I said before, I'll echo it again, it's really the beginning. So each principal spoke to specific examples at the building level in terms of how we see this work actualized, but we have a lot that we still would like to do. Some of what they shared is in place, some is suggestions, but we want to start to think about how does this live and breathe at every classroom level? How can we give students formal opportunities to demonstrate their advancement in these areas, or how they can demonstrate this work. We've started talking about how we would use potentially digital portfolios to capture this over time, so that a child would be able to look back at their career to see how they started to demonstrate caring, deepen that to empathy, took responsibility for themselves and others, and ultimately demonstrated compassion. It goes back to that purposeful progression. We want to make sure that as a school district, we work as a team, that we capitalize on the strengths that our learners show at each age, that we help to foster what naturally is, as Andy said, when we think about the imagination of a student at Memorial School, if we think of the empathy that our intermediate students will often show, the resilience a middle schooler needs. If we think of all of those stages, we want to capitalize on those moments in their lives and channel that in a positive direction, so that our students graduate from East Hampton High School prepared to face the challenges that we know lie ahead.
So, I want to stress that our real challenge is that, if you look at that final column, compassion, innovation, perseverance, collaboration, active learning, this is something now we want for every single student. And so the challenge is, as the schools have come together, we've spent 12 hours in this workshop together as an administrative team, and we still have 18 hours more to go. But as we discuss this, it's got to be something that we expect of every single student. And when I look at that final column, every one of our graduates, as they possess those skills, will not need to be managed in life. They're going to have the skills to go off and be successful in college and careers. Now, as we were discussing this, we took a little bit of a different direction than a lot of districts, because a lot of districts identified their 5 or 6, these are our skills that we want students to master. But I was concerned about, how do we take the bell and just slap it on at the elementary school and say, all right, preschool teachers, this is now the expectation here. So we strayed from the direction of the systemic leadership workshop that we're going to, and we said, okay, maybe compassion, as you know, Mary has talked about the through line. I really want to stress that, you know, a student in pre-K who starts out as caring, in order to get compassion, demonstrate compassion by ninth grade, really felt that they needed to be able to care, they need to show empathy, and they need to responsibility. And you can read that for any of those lines going through, that we've identified the ultimate target, and now our challenge as a district is to make sure every one of our students has an opportunity to demonstrate these at each of those grade levels. Mary's recommended digital portfolio. I hope our graduates of the future can look back at their digital portfolio and see how they demonstrated confidence and imagination as a preschooler. So by the time they graduate, they have a complete digital portfolio of all of these experiences. What impressed me too, and the way I knew that this had taken hold, was as we came back with this chart, I said to the principals, all right, you have to find a person in your building who will take, similar to this bell now, and come up with the logos that we will now put all over your buildings. Because I really believe that language ultimately becomes culture. Every student in the high school hears these words over and over, and that's important. And as we move through the other schools, these pieces of language will become part of their culture. These words, these logos will be on the wall. But I was so impressed that in a very short time, all of the schools sent these back, and they were designed by people in the school. We didn't just say to a graphics designer, hey, come up with a nice graphic, use the animals from each school and make it look good. These came right from the schools. And I think as the terms have come, not only have we captured the appropriate terms for each level, we've also captured a graphic that has meaning to each of the buildings. So I just want to share this chart with you because at our last workshop, we're at the Cromwell, whatever hotel that is now, and part of the exercise was to, start getting your terms down. And so there are 20 of these now around the conference center. And we kind of did a little gallery walk, and everybody took time to go and look and see what the other school districts were doing. Keep in mind, there's 20 different school districts. And of course, you have 20 different posters. So this was a real rough version of what you just saw as we talked about what we wanted to do. And so by the time we finished the walkthroughs, we saw very different directions of all the districts, as you would expect, because you want it to be of your district. But ours captured the imagination of a lot of people because we took the time to say, okay, if this is what we want in high school, we need to identify experiences. In fact, it caused a little bit of a nice discussion between the two leaders, Ken Kay and Jay McTighe, who are, Ken Kay is the founder of Ed Leader 21. He is the person who coined Profile of the Graduate, and so we're meeting with him at this. And Jay McTighe is a curriculum expert. Both of them leaders in the field who we're spending time with. Both of them were kind of debating over the value of this. So as we took down the Post-its and left, kind of looked at the feedback from the other districts, we left Ken Kay's Post-it up on our wall. Now, I have to say, it's something that I'm starting to carry around with me.
I'll tell you, that's the first thing I saw about it.
So, I'm going to put this on my refrigerator over Christmas, and I'm sure my wife will say, do you really even need that to remind yourself? But I think what we're doing is a little bit groundbreaking, and yet to us, it feels very natural. It doesn't feel like, oh my goodness, how are we going in this direction? For us right now, I don't see any other direction to go. This is something that's going to be very comfortable for us. Our challenge, like I said, will be, and you heard like, stick the big toe in indicators from each of the principals on what they're kind of doing now to promote it. But we know that, like I said, I don't want to just promote it for some students. I want to make sure that we have inspirational assessments, memorable assessments, and very powerful assessments to measure these skills in children. So as much as Ken Kay thought that this was amazing, we feel it's an absolutely amazing time to be a learner in the East Hampton Public Schools. So we will come back to you as early as this spring or next fall and let you know the progress that we're making on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So it's open to the board. Comments, questions, thoughts? Anyone?
I think it's amazing. No, I love the progression of the words. When I first saw it and looked over it, I thought it makes so much sense to have little kids understand the word caring, because they do. They may not understand compassion, but they will understand. And I think just the words, I can't argue with any of the words. I think it's a perfect progression. I'm very impressed. Good job, guys. Excellent job. And I love the logos. The logos, yeah. Okay. Those are all great too. Yeah, I can't wait to see how.
So the logos are going to be at the school.
Yeah, we'd like to take the logos and, similar to here, throughout the building, make sure that these terms become part of their culture.
Are the kids going to be aware of this progression as well? I mean, in the lower grades, it's not going to make much sense, but certainly in the middle or high school age.
As they go from school to
Yeah,
school.
so they know that
well,
here at center I have these, this is my focus.
I think
but when I get to middle, these are
as we develop a digital portfolio, I think that will become clear to students as well. Like, keep in mind, we are just at the very beginning of talking about this. So now there's 2 students who are aware of the progress. Hannah and Kristen now are experts on the progression of these skills.
Mark,
I think the comment I'd make, I agree with Joanne. I think if you look at it and you think about it and you talk about the transition from age to age, and it flows very well. And I'm not that far from having my kids in school. As a parent, you get to look at this and you see the structure and say, okay, how is this school system going to treat and deal and educate my children? And then have the structure that you can see, okay, this is going to be the transition that they're going to deal with, going from one school to the other, grade to grade, and how we're going to build as a district. Okay, my first grader, and now 10 years later, 11 years later, what they're going to develop as a graduate. I think it's going to be terrific, and it's going to be positive for our school system to attract to our town.
I think it also sets up for the parents what, this is what the school district is expecting my child to look like, by the time he graduates.
Right.
And how they can also help. I think it'll get a lot of parents' minds going of how they can help reinforce a lot of these skills at home.
Exactly.
So I think that, we have to reach out to parents at each grade level to kind of get the message through.
It'll be like the parents will be allowed to be engaged and
form a stronger partnership.
A structure that they can get engaged in and think, these are the things I continue to reinforce with my kids so that they can achieve at the highest level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, let's open it up.
Anything that anybody hasn't already said.
Anyone else here? Comments, questions, thoughts?
I'd like to hear what Rob is thinking.
We'll put Rob right on the spot.
I appreciate that. Really does a lot by confidence. No, I would just say this is really exciting. I know that this is just starting. We haven't been engaged with it, but it's so interesting to see how you figured out how you would go through the progression. And I'm going to write this up for the Cape Journal, and it's a little really exciting thing that's happening here in this game.
We'll email you the JPEG of the
Wonderful.
profile.
Good. Thanks, Rob.
Scott?
Scott Minnick, 28 South Main Street.
I too think it's a great idea. It goes along, this is a part of the PBIS program, it's just, like I said before, on steroids.
Lots of steroids.
So I think going forward, one thing to think about might be not just, you said words become culture, but also the way in which you introduce these words would also need to vary based on the age group as well. And I think that's a challenge you guys might have. Being an 8th grade teacher, we see we do the PBIS things for the 6th and 7th graders, and they, people will take us, they buy into this, and that's great. The 8th graders just, right, you're not doing that. So you need a different approach, but as the kids get older. So I think that might be something to look forward to going forward as well. I think it's a great idea. I like the logos too.
Anyone else? Carol's looking.
I know, contemplating.
I like the emphasis on these kind of things, and I've been around a long time. It's nice to see these words really being emphasized. and it's great. I like the progression, I like the way it's presented. I'd love to see how it comes along, because I can see all these questions when it's developed.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Come back.
Mark.
I'm Mark Lorette, 21 Brookfield Drive. I think one of the things I noticed when I walked through the building on the tour back in early September were the words on the walls. I think, you could talk about it, but when you walk the hallways and you see those words all over the wall, I think it's such a great way to share those words and make sure those words do come into action. And I think from pre-K all the way to 12, doing it like that, I think it's extremely effective. I was saying to Mr. Dalton before the meeting today, all of East Hampton public schools did such a great job, raising my son to be the kind of person he is today. And I think now this just cements it even more with all the way from pre-K to 12. So I'd like to thank you, Chris, for inviting me tonight. I think it's a great to remember us veterans from years past. We were just commenting on how beautiful these chairs are. So
I know.
Comfortable.
Back in the day, they weren't this comfortable.
No, they weren't.
It doesn't want me to come back, but still. I think this is such a great initiative, and I think it's so important to think about not only the kids of today, but the kids of 2025, 2030, 2050. And you're right, they have to have all these skills to become great citizens, and I think East Hampton's on its way. So I'm really happy to see this going, and proud of the system.
Bill, any thoughts?
Sure. Just want to echo what other people have said to commend you, and I can only imagine what a great experience this must be to the administrative team. To spend the time putting your heads together to do this. It's great work. I'll just share a thought that went through my head as I sat through, which is you can figure out how it relates. My oldest granddaughter is in the process of applying to colleges. And any of you that have been through that know what that whole process is like. And I watch, she's at another school up in Boston, and I watch how she and her friends feel under a tremendous amount of pressure to get into the right school. And they just went through those that went through the early admissions process. And they asked, did you get in? It's like, a big deal. And I watch that and I think, wouldn't it be great if every kid coming out of high school could answer the question, what do you want to do with your life? Or ask themselves, what do I want to do with my life? And as I look with this pattern that focuses on the skills and it's pretty abstract, but I bring it down to the kid, and what's their level of self-awareness. And for a lot of kids coming out of high school and college, they're really figuring that all out. And I think it would be tremendous if in this process, kids could answer that one question when they come out of high school. What do I want to do with my life? Who am I? Where do I want to go? So that's kind of not about this, but that's any thoughts on that? That's what's been going through my head as I listen.
It's a good question to have answered before you spend thousands of dollars on college. Yeah.
And I think the digital portfolios are a great way to lead into that. They can be self-reflective.
Yeah. In the future, it will probably be something that goes right onto them with college or as part of the application process. Who knows?
the start of something huge.
What colleges will expect in 10, 20 years, you know. Finish a digital portfolio. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mike, Kevin, any comments? Kevin, I'm sure he's got some
As I
thoughts.
stated earlier, I'm very impressed with what you've done to date. I know it's only the beginning, but being the dad of a young man who will be graduating in May, he had a wonderful education here, but this wasn't part of that process. I can't just imagine what Matthew would say if he were sitting here and being able to observe this. He has shared a lot of his experiences in college. He's done extremely well, thanks to all the wonderful people here in East Hampton and the programs that you have offered. This can only improve things, and that's what it's all about. And I compliment you, and I wish you well. It's an exciting process with your new administrative team. Doesn't get any better than this. Best of luck.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else?
I'll say from my perspective, there's a reason I don't do teaching, and that's because this is way too hard.
I agree.
Doing roads and police and everything else is much more my business. But what I would say is that, I had a chance to spend this afternoon over at Memorial School with my daughter's class. I had a very nice time there, and you guys are doing a great job. It's really nice. I was amazed at what they were doing. And obviously they're on this first set here. And as I'm looking at this, it's obviously, as many people have said, it's a natural progression, and it's fitting, and I think it makes sense. And I think it's the ideal people we would want of all of our children moving forward. The one question I have, and this is more my town manager hat and the way I look at my own work, how do we measure the effectiveness of our implementation moving forward? And I think that's always an important question to continuously ask ourselves.
We all have that question too. That'll be worked on. Yeah.
Anyone else? Other thoughts, comments? Yep. Yep. Bill?
I just want to say one other thing. The four of us at this table, along with Joanne, were on the board that drafted the resolution that went to the town council to renovate the high school. What a delight it is to be in this room and in this building. And, 20 years later?
Yeah.
7 years later?
Yeah.
5, 6 years.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll all enjoy it.
Yes.
It's a great building.
Thank you guys very much. Oh, yes.
Yeah, I have one more comment. As I'm sitting here, Irene Cook, 11 South Main Street, I'm just struck as that even though the structure of this is new, a lot of the parts of it are not new. It's what all the schools have been doing all along.
Yeah.
But I think it's so wonderful to have the structure there to be able to communicate what all the schools are doing and to keep doing what we've been doing well and fine-tuning what we've been doing all along and to be able to communicate to the greater community at large.
Okay, with that.
Just a quick note, we have several events going on in the high school, and our fire marshal is concerned that there are cars in the fire lane. I'd advise you, if you are parked in the fire lane, which is that yellow lane that says fire lane on it right in front of the school, that you do move your car in the next minute or so.
Okay, so with that, we will take a little 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and finish up the meeting. Thank you all. Thank you. The fire lane, really? Mike, tell me you're parked out front. No.
So that's okay. No, you're turning back.
We'll have to stop your father.
Well, based on where we're going, is that strong about the soft skills?
Anyway, nice to see you.
Over here.
We are. Yeah. Trying to get you. What do you got going on? Oh, really? Okay.
Nice to see you. Yes, nice seeing you, Bill.
Bye now.
Yeah, that would be fabulous.
Okay, we all back. Erica had to leave us, not feeling well, so.
Okay, where are we?
So we'll finish up. Any other public comments now? Back to the regular meeting. Public comments, questions, concerns, anybody? No, hearing none. Moving on. Committee reports. Student representatives. All you.
Okay, so winter sports have started, and boys basketball started off their season with a few scrimmages. The freshman boys played on Saturday and won their game.
Yep.
Varsity and JV boys also played on Saturday, and Thomas Close was a 1,000-point scorer that game, so congrats to him.
Nice.
They're also playing a game right now. They're in the gym. They're what? They're up by 10.
Newsflash.
Girls basketball also started off their season with a few scrimmages. They had their first game on the 12th against Hale Ray, and which both JV and varsity won. They also had another game against Portland on the 14th, and they had another game on Saturday against Valley. Indoor track had their first meet, the Short Conference Developmental Meet, which I think went well. I don't know. And their next meet will be the Old Saybrook Qualifier on the 21st.
Now, Tommy Close, his 1,000-point, isn't he the fourth one in East Hampton history?
I think he's like the sixth, yeah.
Sixth one?
He's the
in
second
history
one
to
in
reach
2
that?
years, so.
Yeah.
We have a whole banner. We're on the second banner, so.
Yeah. But there's not that many. That was my point. That
Yes.
there's
Yeah,
very
there's
few
not
that
many
have reached
that
that.
have.
Yeah. Good for him.
Second in 2 years, though.
Yeah. Good. Sorry.
And then the Interact Club, the VFW along with several Interact members went to the cemetery, I don't know what it's called, it's one near CVS, I don't know what it's called. But they went and Lakeview. They went there and they laid wreaths on the veterans' gravestone. And then last Friday we had the blood drive for student council. And this week for student council we have a pep rally, and today we have pajama day, and then we'll end the week with our class colors and a pep rally on Friday. And I've been talking a lot about the ABC Women's Shelter, and we finally wrapped all their presents, and we had close to 600 presents that we wrapped for all of these children. And when they went to deliver the presents, the lady said how lucky these kids were to be on our list, because our students are some of the most generous students that do donate the gifts. And we had a pajama day last Friday, not last Friday, sometime last Friday, to raise money for Connecticut Children's Medical Center, Cancer and Blood Disorders Unit, and we raised a couple $100. Yeah.
Good. Questions for the students? All right. Thank you. Personnel, nothing to report. Policy curriculum.
Did not
not
meet.
me. Met. Did not met. Meets. Finance, Transportation, Building, Grounds. Brief update.
Yep, we did have a finance meeting early this morning with Jared and Mark and myself and Chris and Paul and Karen. Went over the current state of our budget this year, and things are getting a little tight. We are under a freeze. We have some outplacements that are costing us some additional dollars, so we're trying to deal with that and the transportation that goes along with those extra students. Talked just a little bit about next year's budget, but not too much. So far we have 7 retirements coming in, so you know, there may be a few more, so that will obviously be beneficial to us for next year. You know, I will put this up in some minutes and send them to you, but that was basically the gist of the the meeting, was going over this year's budget, and, you know, we're really tight. So Karen will keep track of it and do what we can, you know, to maintain our budget.
Learn, any update from Learn?
It was a snowy Thursday, so I did not go. I haven't gotten any of the minutes yet or anything yet. So the roads seemed to be too bad last Thursday, so I wasn't going to venture out.
Yep. Building committee, any updates from them?
No.
No. Okay, superintendent report.
Just a couple of things. Joanne explained this year's budget, 2017-18. We are now in a hard freeze due to some unanticipated additional outplacements and additional transportation needs. So we are putting things on a very hard freeze just to give us a little time to see how things settle out. Budget 2018-19 at your next meeting, which is January 16th, Tuesday night, January 16th, due to Martin Luther King Day. The superintendent will present his recommended budget for 2018-19, and we'll invite some people to come from the town so that they have a sense of what we're looking at as we move through the long budget process of January, February, March, when you have it to the town hall by March 1, and then the process. I'll also give you a list of dates of the March meetings that have come up for the town. I continue to get emails from parents. We invited them to comment on all of the budget requests. People have not been shy about commenting on what they would like to see in the budget, so it's been very helpful. You'll get a sense, I'll give you a sense of which items were the most requested as we go along the way. And we were going to do an update on district goals for new members, but 2 of our 3 new members are not here, so we are going to table that agenda item. That's Chris's Christmas present to you.
Yeah.
And the enrollment report is there for your perusal. There's no dramatic changes or anything that you would jump out at you.
2 of the month. Okay, questions for the superintendent? Then we no new business. Finished business, we have nothing. Audience of citizens. Final. Same to you. Thank you. All right, and as mentioned, our next meeting will be that Tuesday the 16th. So have a great holiday, New Year, everybody. Thank you to all the administrators for. Thank you. We are adjourned. A motion to adjourn. Promise, Joanne. Okay.
I think we're pretty much all in favor.
We're all in favor. Have a good night.
Yeah. Happy holiday, everybody.